Day 1 of the Summer Shuffle came to a close yesterday, and as always with these tournaments, we have a lot of fun Rocket League to dive into. So let's get into it. We're going to talk about some of my thoughts from the first day of the qualifiers, and some of the teams like Rat Enterprise coming in and like hoping to qualify, getting knocked down in the lower bracket, and it'll be interesting to talk about. I thought all these teams had something interesting to talk about. I might not dive super in depth to all of them, because it was a lot of Rocket League, and I was a little bit busy. I didn't catch every single series, but I did catch most of them. Today will just mostly be a recap on my thoughts on the players I watched and how these teams play. I won't be diving too much into individual gameplay analysis, simply because it is the qualifiers. There's still like 5 days of this tournament. Once it comes to an end, that's when I'll start getting more into the in-depth analysis of like individual games and how teams are playing. But let me switch this tab real quick and we'll get right into it. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. I know I did. I've been looking forward to it for a while. So yeah, let's go. We got Plot Twist Valence first match, and this one had me interested because Valence didn't look great at all, but they ended up beating Sonics in the losers bracket lately, and like the games are sort of close. The first 3 were all 1-goal games, but it just didn't feel like Valence were in it as much as they could have been. But anyways, so that's the first match. Moving into the winners qualifiers, where we get our first look at Rat Enterprises, and we've got Wonder Mike on the roster, and I'm excited to watch it because I'm a Cloud9 fan. They were my #1 team when they were still in Rocket League. And Rat Enterprises did not look great. In all fairness, neither did Plot Twist, and it has me worried for both these teams, honestly, because it was super sloppy. If we look at how many goals were scored in the first 3 games, it's kind of sloppy. At least one team scored at least 4 goals, Rat Enterprise is giving up, 13 goals over 4 games, over 3 goals a game is not great, especially for Gimmick and Torment, who are supposed to be, the former world champions. These guys are supposed to be good RLCS quality players, but they're struggling. And I think part of it just comes down to the fact that Wonder Mike's brand new on this roster, and it'll take some time to gel. And so I think they can rebound today. They obviously did rebound against Kansas City Pioneers later. So I'm not overly concerned that this is like the end of the roster. They're not going to make RLCS, blah blah blah. I just don't think they played the cleanest so far. So that was a bit worrying from them. But the team that one of the teams I've been most disappointed in is the Kansas City Pioneers. They got beat out by the Charlotte Phoenix, even though every single game was a 1-goal game. I was excited to see Charlotte Phoenix have Dapper on that roster and for them to pull out the wins. And even though obviously they weren't the cleanest either, they were able to sweep. All 3 of the games were super close. I was impressed with Dapper though. I liked how he plays in this team, and going forward, I am actually really excited to see how he plays. I like the Charlotte Phoenix team, and I like Dapper a lot, especially last season. I thought, he kind of got the short end of the stick being on a rough team, but I hope he can play better this year, and I think this is a tournament where they can really show that they belong at the top tier of Rocket League, and if they make it through these qualifiers, it'll be big. And then I'm moving to Alpine, Esports, and Omelette. I like Alpine Esports a lot. I love their logo, I love their branding, and for those who don't know, their players are Percy, Magic Brain, Jordan, and I feel like all 3 of these guys have been on the bubble for like so long now, that even though I don't follow the bubble scene like super intensely, I know all 3 of them. I like to follow them. They're super interesting to watch. They're good players, but they fell in a disappointing 3-1 to Omelette, and that would cause today's matchup between Omelette and Stromboli, the 2 food teams, going against each other. But yeah, this is where the biggest surprise of the qualifiers comes. Sonics in the RLCS last season, pretty strong performance, especially from Shock. Or no, wasn't Dapper on Susquehanna Sonics last year? Was I thinking he was on Flight or something? Yeah, my bad. I don't know what I was thinking. Sorry, Dapper wasn't on the bad team last year. I was just, oopsies. Ignore all that I said. I thought he was on Flight or, anyways. Sorry, that was my bad. Sonic Stromboli, that was a big upset here, obviously. The first game went to overtime after Sonics had the 2-0 lead, and then Stromboli just shut them out from then on. Like, literally, if you went back, I don't know what minute it was in, probably like the 2:30 mark of game 1. And from that point on, the Susquehanna Sonics didn't score for a team that should be way higher in the qualifiers than this, wouldn't you think? Like, after their surprising performance at RLCS last year, I thought they would play better than this. Falling to Stromboli isn't the end of the world, obviously. Double elimination, but then you fall to Valence in round 1 of the losers bracket after they got pretty handily beat by Plot Twist is disappointing, to say the least. It's like, I like this roster, but obviously maybe because Depp was playing another team, the team just wasn't clicking as well. But because I do like Aleutian. Aleutian's a good player, and he was one of my favorite back from when he was on Ghost at the time, but it just looked less than ideal this week. So moving forward, they're already out of the bracket, which is nuts, but I hope they can rebound because I like this team. I like the players in the team, Shock and Illusion especially, but they did look especially rough against Valence, who would end up falling 3-2 to Alpine Esports in the next round. And this is another one I was excited to watch because I like Alpine Esports, but it was a bit of a nail biter, wasn't it? Either way, Game 5s are always interesting, and so they move on to the next day as well, but they're in the loser bracket, and then thankfully Rat Enterprises comes in with a pretty handed beating of Kansas City Pioneers. Kansas City Pioneers didn't look great this tournament, obviously getting swept in both of their series, and now they're already out of the bracket. Rapid, Seabass, and Noxus. I don't know how great Noxus is. This is one of the series I kind of had. This series is one of the ones I had in the background while I was doing free play. So I didn't get a whole great look at Noxus. But Seabass and Rapid in particular, I've never been a big Seabass fan. At the moment, I just don't think he's at the top level. Like, definitely a level tier player, don't get me wrong. But I think, you know, they could pick up someone better at some point, maybe. I like Rapid a lot. Rapid's a good player, though. I don't remember, where was he? He was on Flight, that's right. Where they didn't perform great. They got 10th, obviously. But I think Rapid and Seabass, they can do well together, and there's definitely potential there. I'm not saying they need to replace Seabass, but just at the moment, this is not a top tier roster. And it shows they got swept 0-3 in both their series. I expect them to take at least one game off the Charlotte Phoenix, but the fact they got clean swept again, it just shows a bit of rough on the edges. But then moving into day's semifinals, we got a lot of interesting matches. Plot Twist Charlotte Phoenix I'm really interested in, because the Charlotte Phoenix squeaked through in a clean sweep of the Kansas City Pioneers. All three of their games were one goal, like I said before. But Plot Twist looked scrappy against Rat Enterprises. They obviously took the series 3-1 against a pretty big name team, I guess. But it was just the fact that it was so sloppy. There were a lot of misses. Sosa in particular, I thought the commentators mentioned his name a lot on awkward defensive misses and defensive touches. But luckily it didn't end up costing him, and Sosa redeemed himself because he had a really good offensive performance. I'm interested, boy, this one will be fun, obviously, the food rematch, and I'm excited to see how Alpine Esports do and Rat Enterprises goes. Because just from a fan's perspective, Alpine Esports and Rat Enterprises are the two teams I'd want to qualify the most. But obviously, I don't know if that's possible now that they're down in the losers bracket. So hopefully we'll see one of those squeak through. And honestly, any of the other 4 teams in the top bracket are already crazy interesting to see as they move through, because they're not the highest tier teams in the world, you know? Alma, Stromboli, they're not even with organizations. And Charlotte Phoenix and Padres, they've been on the brink for a while, but not quite able to crack through. And so I'm looking forward to seeing which 2 of these teams make it through into the group stages and how they end up playing. So everybody, I've been Emrat. Like I said, this is more of just a quick overview of my thought on some of the teams. And as we move forward in the tournament, let me know if you have any crazy specific games that you want me to break down. I'd love to do that. Obviously, I'll probably be breaking down more of like the finals down here. But if there are any specific group stages and qualification stages you want me to break down, let me know. I've been Emrat, and I'll see you next time.